How's everybody doing? Yeah. So, first of all, I would like to welcome every single one of you to what should be a fascinating, enlightening evening tonight. I am Manuel Bonrostro, and I'm the president of the Associated Students of the University of California. Tonight, we are very lucky to be in the presence of a man whose work will live on for decades. And his work has already changed the way we perceive film and art. The ACC is proud to host David Lynch on this beautiful campus today. But before we start the show, I would first like to thank a few people that made this show possible. I would especially like to thank the UC Berkeley Office of Student Affairs and the Vice Chancellor, Genaro Padilla, and the Psychology Department for their generous support in making this event happen. With their help, we were able to ensure that this program would be free to every single person in attendance. I would also like to thank ACC advisor Jen Crowder for her wonderful help in making this event possible, and the different student staff members in the ACC Office of the President. Tracy Ross, Amit Jain, Sarah Seiger, Jared Fain, and Ying Huang. Thank you so much for all your wonderful work. I would also like to thank the Cal Performances staff, especially Nikki Harper, Doug Chambers, and Alexis Moscoro. And I would also like to thank the UC Educational Technology Services staff, Ben Hubbard, John Schneiker, and Elena Pereira. UC Berkeley has been the site of many engaging speakers and leaders and has long been a beacon of knowledge as the world's best public institution. As such, it is important that this institution, such as the ACC, continue to bring new and fascinating speakers to this wonderful campus. Therefore, it is only fitting that we get to be here today in the presence of the very man behind films such as The Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, and Mulholland Drive. It is our mission to educate the student body by providing them with amazing opportunities and numerous opportunities to question the world around them and to engage in new and innovative ways of thinking about the world. With this mission in mind, we are proud to bring David Lynch here today and talk about, and we're very proud to have him here today to talk about consciousness, creativity, and the brain. David is also joined on our stage by Dr. John Hagelin, a Harvard-trained physicist and world-renowned quantum physicist. Again, I'd like to state how great it is to have David Lynch and John here to talk about consciousness, creativity, and the brain, and how they can help us better understand how these techniques and practices can open up new ways of thinking that we have never even considered. Tonight promises to be an engaging evening to all students and community members in attendance. I would now like to introduce the Vice President of the David Lynch Foundation and the Master of Ceremonies for the evening, Bob Roth. Enjoy the show.
First of all, on behalf of the David Lynch Foundation, it's wonderful to be back here at my alma mater and to welcome all of you. Go Bears, go Bears, go Bears. To welcome all of you tonight to what promises to be a very exceptional evening. David Lynch has a passion for what he calls the doing, for his filmmaking, for his painting, for his photography, for his sculpture, for his music. He also has a passion, and you'll hear it tonight, for ideas. He loves big ideas that he captures deep within the finest levels of his awareness. And he also has a passion for that diving within. That's something that human beings have been doing for eons. Diving within and awakening that vast reservoir of creativity and intelligence which lies within each one of us. And that process of diving within for the last 32 years, David says, has fueled his incredible creativity and intelligence and innovation and honesty and integrity that we all know and love about David Lynch. Tonight, we're very fortunate to have David talk about his filmmaking, his ideas, and his process of diving within. Joining David, as we just heard, will be Dr. John Hagelin, prominent quantum physicist, who has led for the last 25 years a scientific investigation into the foundations of human consciousness. Before we welcome John and David, I'd like to read to you a few words. We trust you among American filmmakers, for you don't manipulate. Instead, you imagine and you discover. We are proud that an individual can have pursued this hard, this twisting highway in this spiritually desiccated and hostile environment of Hollywood. And we are here to learn how you kept your bearings, kept your vision, and kept sharp your probing imagination in that smog of money and illusion. What does it mean to direct? Does it mean to administer? To engineer? You are not an engineer of emotion. As a filmmaker, you are rather a searcher of self and society. Well, here we are, David, right now at this minute. Direct our attention beyond what we know. We're listening intently. Welcome. Would you please welcome David Lynch and John Hagelin.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Oh, Bobby Roth here, in the excitement, forgot to tell you that I don't have a planned speech. And there's 2 microphones for you all if you have questions on film or meditation or consciousness. You can ask questions. Or we can just enjoy the silence. It's kind of beautiful.
Hi, I just have a simple question for you, David.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Greg, and I'm wondering, do you think that the consciousness can exist outside the body?
Here, there, and everywhere. It's consciousness is such an abstraction, and we all have it. We don't think that much about it, but it's the I amness, being, our ability to understand, our awareness, our wakefulness, our inner happiness. And there's a great, giant ocean of pure consciousness within every human being.
And can I ask a follow-up question?
You bet.
Do you believe that substances can be a tool to understand that better?
You're going to hear from Dr. Fred Travis later on, who will explain what these substances do to the brain. Mm-hmm. And
I already knew the answer. I just wanted to ask.
That's cool. And we all want these experiences. Yeah. And those experiences are there. And with meditation, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi teaches transcendental meditation. And transcendental meditation is a mental technique that's easy to do, effortless, yet supremely profound, in that it allows any human being to dive within and experiencing subtler levels of mind and intellect, and to transcend and experience that ocean of pure consciousness. Now, what happens when you experience that? It's so interesting. When you experience it, you enliven it, you unfold it, and it starts to grow. Consciousness grows. Yeah. So beautiful. And the end result of that growth of consciousness is enlightenment, which is the full potential of the human being. Such a beautiful thing. What is your name again?
My name's Gregory.
Gregory, such a beautiful thing it is.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Tim, and my question is, did Agent Cooper,
That's good.
did he practice TM, and will we ever see him again?
A lot of people ask that now. He'd be the most likely one, probably. One of the things that this field of pure consciousness is a field of knowingness, and it's like an intuition. So when you start experiencing it and it grows, intuition grows. And you know Agent Dale Cooper had quite a good intuition going. And this is one of the things that I've found. I've been meditating for 32 years, and this thing for the filmmaker, this thing of knowing, and it's like an ocean of solutions. You dive in there, and these solutions come. You can see a thing, you can think and feel a thing, and see solutions to make it feel correct. Money in the bank for the filmmaker and for any human being.
Hi, I'm Deirdre, and I actually had two questions completely unrelated, or maybe they are in your head. My first one was, could you describe your first introduction to transcendental meditation and your first experiences with that? And my second question was what your new film is about.
Super.
Awesome.
There was a time when if I ever did hear about meditation, I wasn't even curious about it. I had nothing against it, nor was I for it. I just didn't think about it. And if I did think about it, I think it was a waste of time. And then I remember this phrase, true happiness is not out there, true happiness lies within. And this phrase had a ring of truth to it, to me. But they didn't tell you in the phrase where the within was, nor how to get there. So it seemed like a very kind of mean phrase. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, maybe meditation is this way to go within. And so I started getting fired up. And they say at a certain point, we don't know when it hits us, but we become seekers. We start asking questions. We start getting curious. Who knows why this happens? But I started reading about things, asking questions, and it was about that time my sister called and said she had started transcendental meditation, and she told me about it, but as looking back, it was a change in her voice that I just said, I want that. And I went down and I learned it. And you learn how to meditate, and then you're taken into a quiet little room where you can have your first meditation. And I didn't have a clue what it would be. I just knew I wanted it. I sat down, closed my eyes, started the mantra, and boom, it was like I was in an elevator and they cut the cables and I dove into bliss. Beautiful, beautiful, deep bliss. And that experience was so powerful and so unique. I say the word unique should be saved for this experience. And I never missed a meditation in my 32 years. I love that experience, and I love the feeling after the experience and what it does. And there's a side effect to experiencing pure consciousness. Its negativity starts to recede. It's the weirdest thing. It's like ramping up a light, and negativity, like darkness, starts to go. And I had a big anger in me, and I was taking it out on my first wife, and I had fears and anxieties, I'll tell you, before I started. And 2 weeks after I started meditating, my wife came to me and said, "What's going on?" And I was quiet for a moment because it could have been any number of things she might have been referring to. So finally I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "This anger, where did it go?" And she had noticed it. I didn't even know that it was lifting. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And these negative things like fear, anxiety, tension, stress, depression, these things start lifting. Again, money in the bank for a human being to do anything. It's so beautiful how the enjoyment of doing just blossoms. Huge, huge enjoyment of doing when this, I call the suffocating rubber clown suit of negativity begins to dissolve.
Could you tell me about your next film?
I'm working on a film called Inland Empire, and I'm in the editing stage right now. I got to get some water.
Hi, my name is Melinda, and I had two questions, actually. I was wondering, it's kind of a silly question, but I had heard that it was on a documentary about Star Wars, that George Lucas had considered having you direct Return of the Jedi, and what would you have done differently had you directed it?
Whoa.
And also, the other is, if you find yourself in a place where you're not able to meditate, I understand that you probably get a lot of your ideas through meditation. If you find yourself on location and you're wondering, you're stuck with something, how do you get yourself out of the noise and out of the racket and pull yourself into your own way, into your own world, so that you can actually get through with your meditation?
Well, you can find a place to meditate anywhere. You can meditate in an airport. Noise is no barrier. It's nicer when it's quiet. But I meditate before I go, if I'm shooting, I go meditate before I go shooting, then meditate at lunch or meditate after I finish. And every place I've ever gone, if you ask for a quiet room, even if they've never heard of meditation, people say, oh, yes, come with me, and they get me a little quiet room. It's very beautiful. And then you just dive in. And you don't go in there necessarily to get ideas. You go in there to expand that container of bliss, consciousness, intelligence, creativity, harmony, coherence, love, energy, power. All this starts expanding. And it's so beautiful. And then when you come out, all energized, refreshed, blissful, then those ideas are easier to catch. It's like the net goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can catch those fish.
And also, you said you started meditating 31 years ago?
32.
32, well. And what originally piqued your interest in meditation?
That's what you heard. The word enlightenment, I thought, is it possible for human beings to gain enlightenment? And what is that?
Okay.
And is it possible to really get happiness going from within? Because we are always looking out for happiness. And we live in a world of change. Everything's always changing. And if you see this car that you love, and you want this car, it's going to make you happy, you save up, or if you have the money, you get that car. And you brush your teeth looking at your car. It's so beautiful. It's so much happiness. And you drive it and keep it clean, and you're going along. Then the time passes. And a year later, it's kind of dirty with some scratches and dents. 2 years later, you're driving down the road, and you spot a car that you want. And this car starts crying because you don't want it anymore. True happiness grows from within. When you dive within and really dive all the way and experience that ocean of consciousness, which Dr. John Hagelin's science calls the unified field, oneness, unity, oneness and unity. It's so beautiful. And as he says, at that fundamental level, we are all one. We're one world family. On the surface, we're all different, which is always going to be, but underneath, we're all one. It's so beautiful.
And also the Return of the Jedi. But thank you very much, Mr. Lynch, and I'm going to take a seat.
Well, I was asked by George, but I told him, George, you should direct this film. This is your ideas and your film, and Please, George, you do that. But
Should I go first? Yeah, thank you. Hello, David.
hello.
What's up? My name is Martin.
What is your name, Martin?
Martin. Yeah, I'm a young Argentinian filmmaker, and I have two questions, if it's possible. One, it's about a film that I'm doing, and it's more about a personal situation. Where I came first to this country, the first reaction that I have was that people was calling me like ADD and bipolar, and I'm not that crazy. I swear. Well, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, what's your reaction when, I mean, like the American, all the medicines and, people are getting so focused into, depression and, the Prozac and Ritalin and all that. And, I know it's an industry, but, they affect to people that, they could, they are hyperactive, but they could be producing much more. So, I feel that you were one of those people and you get to focus with your meditation. I found my ways.
This is a very good question, and I think what you'll hear from Dr. John Hagelin will give much more of an answer than I can give, except that there's lots of studies going on right this very minute of what meditation does to these so-called disorders, and how people are benefiting so greatly from it without drugs. So, and then we have Dr. Fred Travis, who can speak about that as well.
Yeah. And I have a second question. It was about your film, The Straight Story. What was your motivation behind it? I mean, it's so different, from...
Well, it's similar in a weird way with The Elephant Man. I had zero interest in The Straight Story, hearing about it before I read the script. And I'd been hearing about it for a couple of years. And one day I was asked to read the script by Mary Sweeney. And I sat down, started reading it, and I just felt. And I wanted to see, it's like catching an idea. A script is ideas all organized for you. But it's the same principle. As you read it, you see it, you smell it, you feel it, and you see how cinema could do that. And so I got fired up because of the emotion of that story. And it still gets me.
Yeah. Thank you, then.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir. I would just be interested in hearing you talk maybe a little bit about coincidence, perhaps what role it played in your life, or if you pay attention to it, and maybe if you could even speak on if you see any differences or boundaries between coincidence and intuition.
That's a very good question. Coincidence I call happy accidents. And sometimes if something is going wrong, you might say that's not a very good thing, but at the end of something going wrong, it may have been all going wrong to show you a very good thing, which goes to staying alert as you go forward making a project, say for a film. I can't think anyway, though, of happy accidents. There's just been so many. The one that comes to mind is Bob, Killer Bob in Twin Peaks. How that came about was very interesting. Frank Silva was a set decorator. And we were in the house that we were using for Laura Palmer's house. And we were shooting the pilot. And I was out in the hall underneath the fan. And Frank was moving a dresser, which when he moved it, blocked the doorway. And I heard a woman say, "Oh, Frank, don't block yourself into the room." And I didn't even turn around. I just pictured Frank in that room. And then I thought, wait a minute. And I ran in and I said, "Frank, are you an actor?" And he said, "Well, yes, I am." Because everybody in Hollywood's an actor. Maybe everyone in the world. So I said, "You're going to be in this thing." And I just had him go down behind the bed and hold, and panned across twice without him and once with him, because I didn't know what it was. And then we went downstairs and we were shooting. And we were shooting a scene where Grace Zabriskie, Laura Palmer's mother, sees something in her mind's eye late at night, alone, and bolts upright. So the operator was on the wheels, and he has to crank up to follow her with the lens, and she bolts up screaming, and he cranks up, and he's got her. And I said, perfect, beautiful. And he said, Sean, the operator, said, no, it's not beautiful. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, someone was reflected in the mirror. And I said, who was reflected in the mirror? He said, Frank was reflected in the mirror. So it's a very happy accident.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
My name is Jason, and I was wondering if you could tell me how transcendental meditation is different from other forms of meditation, and if it's worth the $2,500.
That's a very good question. Let's talk about the money first. To me, it's worth far more than that. And we have a thing where we think something spiritual or something that's supposed to be good for you should be free. And yet, all these things we want cost a lot of money. And the price, to me, is it illumines the strength of the desire. If you want that, you'll get it. And I know people who don't have much money, they find themselves wanting it, and they get it. Some people with lots of money, they could easily get it, and they don't want it. And they don't want it because it costs something. It should be free. It's a strange, strange thing. Now, some of that money goes to the teacher who teaches you. And the teachers are full-time. And as Bobby said, wouldn't it be a beautiful world if the teachers of meditation, the ones that teach you how to dive within, experience self, pure consciousness, lead you to your full potential, enlightenment, wouldn't it be beautiful if they could live on that money? Now, the rest of the money goes to world peace. It doesn't go, like when we pay our taxes, to killing people in the name of peace. It goes to peace-creating groups who are trained in advanced techniques to enliven that field of consciousness, unity, enliven that in the world. And that's another whole thing we could talk about. What's the other question?
How is it different than other
Oh, yeah.
forms?
Now, the foundation is David Lynch Foundation for Consciousness-Based Education and World Peace is offering, we have to raise money to offer it to you for free, a scholarship. If you are interested in starting, or interested in knowing more about it, or interested in helping bring a person to their full potential, or bring peace to earth by enlivening this field of oneness, then let us know. No problem. And we'll try to raise the money.
Okay, so I can tell my parents that David Lynch said to pay for it.
Please tell your mom and dad that it would be so beautiful if they paid for that. Now, I paid for my son Riley and my son Austin and my daughter Jennifer. And I paid when I started. When I started, it was only $35. But it is a lot of money to me then. I didn't care. I really wanted it, and I've been doing it ever since. And my friend Charlie Lutz used to say around the center in LA, at least they'll meditate up to $2,500 worth. And it's the regular practice of diving within. It would be beautiful if you gained enlightenment overnight. But you dive in twice a day. Once in the morning, you're a meditator. You go and you dive in, and then you just go about your business and watch things get better. It's really beautiful. It's for the rest of your life.
Thanks. And I really like your movies, but at the end of them, I usually say, I don't get it.
You start meditating, pal.
Hi, my name's Rachel, and you've spoken of your paintings as being a process of reaction, action and reaction. And I was wondering how that process of action and reaction relates to transcendental meditation and to consciousness. And my other question is that at the center of a lot of your films and a lot of your paintings, you seem to put remains in the corpse in its place. And I'm wondering what about that interests you, in particular in your paintings where you have the actual decomposition happening on the canvas itself.
I like organic phenomenon, and I like earth things. I like things growing, and I like also the things, decaying. Why do I like that? I don't know. But it's a beautiful, beautiful texture to me. Unbelievable. Unbelievable textures. A factory in a field is almost more beautiful to me than just the field. Man and nature kind of working together. Even though it's very bad for the environment, it's a beautiful texture. I just like those things. And this action and reaction, how does that go? It's like a dance, and it's like you do something based on and it's the intuition going. It's this consciousness sort of flowing. You make an action, you see it, you react, you feel it, and it indicates the next action. And you react, you think, feel it, and it indicates the next thing. And it grows, and it's a beautiful thing. And it's the same in music. It's this note is going, and that one isn't working. It just goes to that one. It just builds, and it goes like that.
Thank you.
And intuition does grow. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Chris. I'm a little confused. I don't know what consciousness really is, and I don't know why are we different, or are animals conscious, and what separates us from that, and if we're getting in tune when we meditate or with this unity, are animals already in tune? Have we lost this attunement and we're trying to get it back through meditation? So, yeah.
That's a bunch of beautiful questions. What was that first part of that question?
What's consciousness?
I was saying, if you have a golf ball size consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball size understanding. When you look out, a golf ball size awareness. When you wake up, a golf ball size wakefulness. And you'll have a golf ball size inner happiness. But when you expand it, more understanding, more awareness, more sense of self, self-awareness, bliss, wakefulness. And when you hear that enlightenment is wide awake, then you might think we're all sort of in trouble. Apparently there's many degrees of wakefulness, but wide awake in pure consciousness is the state of enlightenment. Wide awake, always with the self, waking, sleeping, and dreaming. Now, maybe Dr. John Hagelin can talk about the animals, because I'm not sure where they fall in this, but I think it's the human being that can, unfold that supreme enlightenment. And we're built for it. We're built for that dive within. We're built to unfold it. I don't know why we have to do this process, but it's been throughout the ages. Many, many, many have gone before. Maharishi didn't make up this technique. It's an ancient technique for human beings to realize the full self, realize that, unfold it. And human beings have this promise. And on the way to enlightenment, things get better and better. And the enjoyment of doing goes. The way you appreciate things grows. How you get along with people grows better and better. And that's, so beautiful when you're working. Now, I've heard that there's businesses, they had an article in the paper, businesses run on fear. Businesses run on fear. And I thought if I ran my set on fear, I wouldn't get even 1% of what I get. No one would go the extra mile. But it's like a macho thing to run your business on fear. And people are in fear all day long. And when you fear a place, pretty soon you start to hate the place. And you hate to go to work. And that hate turns to anger. And then you're angry at your work. This is the reverse of that. You start unfolding all these positive things, the negative things start to recede. And if you have a set with this kind of atmosphere going, people go the extra mile. They start flying with ideas. They start helping out more. They start being with you and it's not against you. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Josh. I first got in love with Eraserhead in 8th grade because of an interview with John Waters saying that was his favorite movie. And I was wondering if there was a mutual respect you have with the work of John Waters, or if there are any other contemporary directors whose work you admire.
I've met John Waters many times, and I always make sure I thank him for that. Because when Eraserhead first opened in New York City, John Waters had a film opening. And I heard the story that when his film opened, he introduced it on stage, but instead of talking about his film, he said, you all should go see Eraserhead. It was a very good thing. What was the other question?
Are there any particular directors, contemporary directors, that you admire?
I don't know so much about contemporary. I guess Paul Thomas Anderson, I'd say. I like, Fellini and Bergman and Kubrick, those guys a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carolyn, and I want to thank you for your daily weather report.
Thank you very much.
And I have two questions that are related. I was wondering, what is a typical day for you, and are you a vegetarian, and do you believe that vegetarianism contributes to meditation, good meditation?
A typical day, I get up, I meditate, and I go about whatever it is I'm working on. Right now I'm working on editing my film, and I eat chicken sometimes. But I like now a thing called trail mix. And I don't know the type of it, but it's got M&Ms in it. And it's really, really good. You should try it. Now, it's true. It's really important what you eat. They say we are what we eat, but a lot of things are important, but we live in the field of relativity. So relatively, it's most important for me to make that dive within. That, to me, is money in the bank. And I see things getting better. So I just make sure I do that every morning and every evening. And the day is just very enjoyable. And I kind of have a setup where I have a wood shop and a painting studio and a sound studio. I can go, as ideas go, I can go here and there. And that took a long time to get, about 20 years to build that. And so I always wanted a setup. So now I can kind of go here and there as whatever's sparking it, dictates.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jesse. And
hey, Jesse, how you doing?
all right. I was watching the making of Blue Velvet, and I was watching the actors sort of describe how you communicated with them. And I thought it was really interesting because they were saying something like, well, he didn't say much. He just sort of stood there and had this look, and he felt something, and I knew what to do. And I was just interested in, like, maybe you can recreate what you looked like at that moment or something. Or like, what was it that...
Well, I don't sit there like that. But I get up, and that's something about the hands. And it's strange what you say, but this is the case of how it kind of goes. The idea says everything. And so the next idea, the idea dictates everything, you know, that follows. You just stay true to the idea. Now you've got actors, let's say 2 actors, and they're going to rehearse a scene for the first time with me. So I just start the rehearsal anywhere it is. And then when it's over, it's either, normally it's a long way away from where it should be. Sometimes it's closer than I thought. But wherever it is, then you talk. And the way you talk, it doesn't necessarily make so much sense. It's just talking to them, and maybe they say a sentence or something like that, and then you say yes, 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 and they go again. Then the next time it's closer and it's closer, but you go and talk, and some new words come up, or a new thing in their face, and then they say okay, and they would go again, and little by little by little, it's amazing. A thing goes off in them, and they say, I got it. I've got it. And they own it. And then they bring all their talent to that, and it rolls. But it's a process, you know.
Thanks.
It's a communication, not 100% with words.
Hi, I'm Danny.
Hey, Danny.
I had a question about your short, the 45-second film that you did with the old camera. And I was wondering if you talk about your experience with that and how you came to that idea for the short.
That's a 55-second.
55.
Yeah. The Lumiere brothers, who started cinema, had a beautiful camera, brass, wood, and glass. And it had a little beautiful little wooden magazine which held a little roll of film that lasted 55 seconds. And a 100-year anniversary, they recreated these cameras, or maybe they had the original ones. I think it might have been the original ones. Yeah. They recreated the emulsion and put it on acetate rather than nitrate, and they asked 40 film directors to use that camera, and they had many, many rules. You could not stop the camera. You had to use natural lighting. You could make no edits in it. And you had 3 takes. I'm pretty sure that was it. And I remember getting the idea. My hand was on this Inca power saw, table saw. I was in my shop. And I got an idea to have 5 or 6 sets and then have the camera move as rapidly as possible in between the sets, but first close the lens, you know, cut off the light, and then move the camera really fast and then open it up, and then close it and move the camera really fast, open it up, and like that. And so it took a long time, like 15 days, to build these sets and get it all organized, and it worked out, you know, pretty good. That's how it happened.
Okay, cool. And
yeah,
just
sure thing.
a really random question. Do you find that it's more natural for you to smile in pictures or to just have a blank face in pictures?
A small smile.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Amanda.
Hey, Amanda.
I was really fascinated by your short film, The Grandmother, and I was wondering what brought that about.
I don't know. And it's so beautiful how ideas come along. I just got an idea that a small boy plants a seed and grows a grandmother. Because a grandmother is a source of love for many people. And this boy's family was pretty much hell. Yeah. So that it just kind of, I don't know where that idea came from, but there it was.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All ideas come from this field because this field is at the where you transcend the field of pure consciousness is at the base, the source of thought, the source of mind, the source of matter. And it's the source of a fish. It's the source of a tree, the source of a star. It's a beautiful, beautiful, full field. One more question, says Bobby, and I'll be back later on.
I'm Daniel.
Daniel?
Yes. What do you meditate on?
You meditate using a mantra. And the mantra is a specific sound vibration. You just start the mantra going. And the mantra turns the mind within. Always we are pointed out, but now we're pointed in. And why do we like going within? Why is it easy and effortless? Because it's natural. The mind loves to go to fields of greater happiness. And with each subtler level of mind, with each subtler level of intellect, there's more and more happiness until you reach the source, maximum bliss, maximum. And you splash into that, and the splash is bliss. Beautiful, beautiful. You just keep diving, you pop out with thoughts, dive back in, pop out, dive back in, then you come out. More and more and more of that is with you. It's like going to the treasury and filling up your pockets with money, with gold. And then you come out and you start spending it. Ideas, you start catching ideas. You start having a great time. Now, Bobby Roth will introduce the great Dr. John Hagelin, my good friend.
Diving within all of David's beautiful descriptions are the descriptions that people have had throughout the ages of turning within. David asked John Hagelin, and we'll meet Fred Travis, brain researcher, to talk about what science tells us about the process of diving within. And then when those two gentlemen are finished, then David will come back and continue taking your questions. John Hagelin is a world-renowned quantum physicist, educator, author, and public policy expert. He has conducted pioneering research at CERN, which is the European Center for Particle Physics, and SLAC, which is the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center, and is responsible for the development of a highly successful grand unified field theory based on the superstring. His scientific contributions in the fields of electroweak unification, grand unification, supersymmetry, and cosmology include some of the most cited references in the physical sciences. In recognition of these and other achievements, Dr. Hagelin was named winner of the prestigious Kilby Award, which recognizes scientists who have made major contributions to society through their applied research in the fields of science and technology. The award recognized Dr. Hagelin as a scientist in the tradition of Einstein, Jeans, Bohr, and Eddington. Dr. Hagelin received his PhD from Harvard University. He is currently director of the Institute of Science, Technology, and Public Policy and professor of physics at Maharishi University of Management. And he is now working in Washington, D.C. to establish a much-needed, long overdue University of World Peace. Please welcome Dr. Hagelin.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm normally not shy of public speaking, but David Lynch is a very tough act to follow. He has this $1 million coiffure, which makes some of us feel follically challenged. And he speaks about meditation, which is a very, very difficult experience to communicate. He speaks about it with such a poetic clarity and lucidity that it is really tough to follow. I would like to add a few scientific remarks to the beautiful experiences that David shared. David has talked with us about the experience of a field of unity within, profound inner harmony, inner peace, and inner unity. This experience of inner unity is really the core experience that has been described since the beginning of history by all the major traditions of knowledge and spiritual traditions of the world. Is this field of unity at the basis of life's diversity fact or fiction? It's very interesting to me today to see that modern science, through its reliable but slow means of gaining knowledge, has, over the past half a century, maybe a little longer, peeled away layer after layer of the onion of existence, exploring deeper levels of natural law, deeper levels of nature, from macroscopic to microscopic, to the molecular, atomic, nuclear, subnuclear world of quarks and leptons, electroweak unified world, grand unified world, super unified world, 10 million times smaller than the atomic nucleus. At this fountainhead, this core level of nature's functioning, we see the emergence, the discovery of fundamental unity at the basis of the diverse laws of nature governing the universe. At that level, all four forces, gravity, the strong force, the radioactive force, the electromagnetic force, are all one. And all the so-called particles, the quarks and leptons on which they act, are also all one. At that level, there's just a single unified ocean of existence. And all the particles and forces that fill the universe are just little ripples on the surface of this ocean of unity, ocean of existence. This really remarkable understanding of the core unity of life is not the sole province of the world's mathematical physicists. But as I said, it really has been the cherished experience of generations. And generations of refinement of techniques of meditation have really been designed to render more and more efficient the process of diving within as easily and efficiently as possible, experiencing deeper levels of mind, deeper levels of human intelligence, corresponding to the experience of deeper levels of intelligence in nature. And then, at the source of thought, one experiences this ocean of intelligence and creativity, the field of unity within. That is the so-called meditative state. It is also described as holistic experience. And as we'll see in a few moments, it has with it a remarkable transformation and correlation in the functioning of the human brain. A complete transformation so dramatically different from waking that the meditative state is now considered to be a fourth major state of consciousness, distinct from waking, dreaming, and sleeping. Another way to see how it arises and what it is to examine for a moment the phenomenon of attention. In waking consciousness, attention really is just a localized beam of consciousness. So in waking consciousness, we're always aware of something. That means our comprehension is focused on a particular object of perception or another. The meditative process is one where that narrow focus of comprehension, whatever it is, starts to, well, you start to withdraw your awareness from those isolated boundaries, and comprehension, which was narrowly focused, starts to systematically expand, opening up more holistic levels of comprehension, more holistic levels of understanding, and more holistic levels of understanding until comprehension becomes literally unbounded. Unity, wholeness. That is the experience of consciousness. And it's not foreign in a sense that it is just the experience of ourself, in the most profound sense of that word. Somebody asked what consciousness was a moment ago, or what the self is. The self is that one thing. Self is just our subjectivity, the liveliness of consciousness that allows us to see anything, experience anything, know anything. But what's so abstract about that consciousness is the consciousness itself isn't experienced, at least not in waking consciousness, where the attention is always localized on some concrete object, or thought, or emotion, or sensation. So by withdrawing that narrowly focused attention systematically to become unbounded, completely universal and abstract, that's the experience of what's called pure consciousness, pure subjectivity, the self with a big S, sometimes called Atma. So the self, our very subjectivity, is the only thing in our lives that never changes. It's the one thing that allows us to believe correctly that we're the same person today that we were as a child. Because everything else changes. The body changes for the worse. Our beliefs change, our friends change, our professions change, our spouses change. Everything changes, and yet we know we're the same person today that we were 51 years ago. And that sameness is our own subjectivity, the nature of which is infinite expansion, unbounded bliss. The origin of universes, universal intelligence, universal consciousness, that field of unity at the basis of life's diversity that underlies and connects us all. Now, for me as an educator, and there's a lot of research to back this up, and we'll see a very brave student is about to come up here. And let us take a look under his hood, and we're going to see what happens to the human brain when human attention, normally directed outward, turns systematically within, and the awareness expands and expands to experience the self. A complete real-time transformation in the functioning of the brain, which for a brain scientist is remarkable, and I think even for most people, pretty impressive. But as an educator, what is so crucial about this discovery of this meditative state and understanding it physiologically from the standpoint of brain physiology is that it really is the missing ingredient to education. It is a technique that expands consciousness, expands the container of knowledge. Now, this state of transcendental awareness or expanded consciousness is, as I said, unique. It's different from waking, dreaming, sleeping. In what sense? It's different in this striking sense that normally the electrical activity of the brain, which is often measured here and here and here and here and everywhere across the scalp, the electrical activity of our brain, the so-called brain encephalogram, EEG, is not very intelligent. I don't know if you've ever seen your own EEG scan, but it's really depressing. It's really like there's no communication between different areas of the mind and personality. Mathematically, it's very much like an orchestra before the conductor takes the stand. The musicians are warming up, they're sawing away at their instruments, and no real effort to coordinate their activity. And what do you get? A cacophony of discordant sound. And then the conductor assumes the podium and raises the baton, and then that cacophony of discordant sound is transformed instantly to flowing music. The difference? The integrated functioning of the orchestra. So that integration of brain functioning is an inevitable side effect and a striking side effect of the meditative experience. This experience of unbounded awareness that is as old as time. Now, again, as an educator, this is crucial. Why? Because orderly brain functioning, what's called global EEG coherence, where the whole brain functions in concert. Orderly brain functioning correlates scientifically with rising IQ, increased intelligence, improved learning ability and academic performance, short-term and long-term memory, enhanced moral reasoning, increased psychological stability, emotional maturity, alertness, reaction time. Everything good about the brain depends on its orderly functioning. And now, orderliness of brain functioning can be systematically developed in any student of any age. This already reverses a bleak view of human potential, mainstream view of human potential, which has been, until now, that we peak at 16 years of age. At 16, our gray matter is of maximum weight. the raw intelligence of the brain is also maximum. And thereafter, we undergo this long and torturous process of declining raw intelligence and shrinking of gray matter, which is very visible by the 20s and catastrophic by the 30s. Don't even think about the 40s or 50s. Now, by the time you get to be 51, we say, well, we make up for that with our maturity and wisdom and experience. The whole thing's pathetic, and fortunately completely obsolete and out of date, because now we know that the brain is sufficiently plastic and malleable and capable of forging new connections and learning new things throughout life. And yes, if you don't use the brain, it does atrophy. And we'll show in a moment some extraordinary pictures of acutely atrophying brains from lack of use. But even that is reversible, because the meditative state in an educational setting, which is the best place for it in my opinion, the meditative state engages the total brain and is unique among the whole range of human experiences: waking, dreaming, sleeping, hypnosis. Only this experience of unbounded awareness engages the total brain and develops the brain holistically, with longitudinal increases in IQ, even in older people in nursing homes. So it's an educational technology of the foremost magnitude. Now, if you're standing in front of a PTA, which I have many times, and trying to sell the concept of introducing a little quiet time in the classroom for the experience of unbounded awareness, I talk in terms of increased IQ and academic performance. David likes to talk, and so do I really, more in terms of enlightenment. And I want to just spend the last few minutes before I introduce Dr. Fred Travis in discussing what that term means. Well, I think we're in a position to understand very easily now what it means. Enlightenment is also called self-realization. Realization of the true nature of consciousness, which is unbounded, beyond change, universal, eternal, bliss. Now, in the beginning days and weeks and months of meditation, that's a momentary experience of expansion and exhilaration, of universal being. But it's a sticky experience. It's so profoundly attractive that it starts to stick, in the sense that you forget less and less of your true unbounded nature, even while the awareness is sharply focused on specific boundaries. So even though this process of transcending and experiencing being really develops over a period of days, and you're completely proficient by a matter of weeks or months, what grows over time is this permanency of the experience of the true nature of the self. And that permanency is called enlightenment. Now, what's so great about why it's called liberation, freedom from bondage, etc., is because until the self is known, then whatever we're experiencing, cold water, maybe mashed potatoes for dinner, that can be okay if you like potatoes, but it's really at the expense of something so much bigger. Because while you're eating those potatoes, that's it in your life. Waking consciousness, that's what it gives you at that point. What do you lose? Unbounded bliss. And if you're eating okra, marinated eggplant, life is a disaster at that point, because that's all there is. And it's not very nice, if you ask me. So, freedom from the binding influence of perception, so that you're never lost. This is what happens over regular meditation, and then it doesn't matter if you're sound asleep, or dreaming, or dynamically engaged in a tennis match or an exam, even under the depths of anesthesia. You are never lost to the experience of your unbounded inner blissful reality. That's self-realization. That's enlightenment. It's invincibility. It's inner strength. Because no matter what's happening on the outside, whether it's okra or mashed potatoes, life is always bliss. You can enjoy the parts more fully than ever before, but inner stability of bliss and contentment becomes permanent. So I would like to introduce for a few minutes Dr. Fred Travis, who is really one of the foremost brain researchers in the US and maybe the expert in the area of meditation and brain development, who will introduce Shane Zispin, again, a very brave student, who will show just in a few minutes, real time, the complete transformation of brain functioning associated with the meditative state, and why this is so fundamental to life and to education. When you appreciate Shane Zispin, who's going to meditate in front of about 700 people right now, when my girlfriend first saw my brain waves, I was mortified. It was little coherence and very little amplitude. So what Shane is going to share is very unusual. So please welcome Dr. Fred Travis and Shane Zispin. We open the curtains, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hagelin. We'll take a moment just to set everything up here. So we need the curtain down, please. Very good. If I only had a brain, what we'll be doing is we're going to anchor these abstract concepts which John and David had discussed in the concrete functioning of your brain. The reason this is possible is brain functioning shapes the content of daily experience. When you have a good night's rest, you wake up and there's no problem too big for you. But remember those nights that you didn't sleep so well and you wake up tired in the morning? It's a chore just to remember what day it is. And this process of brain underlying experience also goes the other way. Every experience we have in turn shapes the brain. Right now, what's happening in your brain is the light from my body is coming, it's going through your eye, it's going into the back of your brain, it's creating these waves of electrical activity, the sounds coming through your ear, just back and forth over the brain. What's happening is hundreds of thousands of brain cells are as if shaking hands and creating a delicate network. And it's this network that lets you see me and lets you understand what I'm saying. What happens is with regular experience, these networks get stronger. What you're actively doing is you're constantly creating networks that then help you understand your reality. This is the nature of your brain. Your brain is a river and not a rock. It's constantly changing. There's been some research with monkeys, in this case, where they just brushed the fingertips of the monkey. That was the additional experience the monkey had. And what they did is they looked at the part of the brain, center brain, which actually responds when the fingertips are touched. And this is the amount of the brain that was responding every time the monkey's fingertips were touched. After 3 months of this research, this is the amount of the brain that was responding. Do you see it's much bigger? This is what happens with every experience. Have any of you gone into the elevator where they have the Braille and trying to read it? This is one of the things I like to do. And I keep on trying, I really can't detect all those bumps. A blind person can read it very quickly. What the blind person is doing is devoting more of their brain to the information coming through their fingertips. This is what's happening with every single experience we have. We're constantly recreating brain networks, which then recreates our reality. Now, the important point that I want you to understand is all experiences change the brain. When you're in class, you learn some concept, you learn some new skill, you're actually creating a local network in your brain. But when you stay up 1 or 2 nights, when you take an extra load in the quarter and you're just under stress, under the gun for 12 weeks at a time, that's also creating specific brain circuits. And these brain circuits result in something called downshifting. High stress and fatigue, what happens is you use the back part of your brain. This is the screen of your mind. Right now, what's coming through your eyes, what's coming through your ears is creating a picture back here. It's almost like the screen up here, and all of the slides come and replace what's there. That's what's happening in the back part of the brain, is what's happening right now. And under high stress, under fatigue, this sensory concrete area can talk to the motor system, but it just responds with what's happening right now. It's very much of a stimulus response mode. There's not a lot of thoughtful thinking. This is the way you respond when you wake up in the morning, you overslept, you're late for your class, you jump up, get your clothes on, run to class, sit down, and you forgot your homework. It's what happens when you stay up all night studying for an exam, and then you go into the exam and you fall asleep. What you do is you're lacking the ability to look into the future. That's what happens with this front part of the brain. This is the frontal executive system. This is the CEO of the brain. Chief Executive Officer of the brain is responsible for judgment, decision-making, planning. Under high stress, you actually bypass this part of the brain. Under high stress and fatigue, you bypass this part of the brain and you create circuits which leave that out. And that's what we see in this next slide. This slide is showing activity of the brain metabolic rate. This is a normal brain. You're looking at the bottom of the brain. So here's the front of the person, their nose is up here. Here's the back of the brain. Notice over here, this is it's not a student, it's a criminal, a violent criminal. But notice these areas here. This is areas of the brain that are not active. There's not actually holes in this person's brain. It's just when that person is thinking and deciding, these parts of the brain are not contributing. So judgment, planning, thinking into the future, that part of the brain that lets you do that is not active. Now, the high stress of life, our fast-paced world, the increased pressure under here at the university is moving this type of brain in this direction. Unless you're doing something to actually exercise these. It's very much physiological training. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. If you want strong pectoral muscles, you lift weights in a specific way. If you want to develop this part of your brain, you have to have specific experiences. And one of those experiences is this process of transcending. It's just what it does. When the mind transcends, it actually activates, it actually enlivens and integrates the CEO of your brain. Okay, now it's time to stop talking and let's see some EEG. We have here Shane Zisman. Give him a hand, please. Thank you. What we'll be doing is we'll be looking at his brain waves in real time, and we'll see them during eyes open, during eyes closed, and then during transcendental meditation practice. Here they come, yes. And so these big bumps here and here are blinking. Could you blink 3 times for the crowd? Very good. Thank you, Shane. Now this is, some extra ones. This is the, here we have a little laughing in his EEG. What we'll do is we'll actually look at a single sensor in the front. And we'll see what's happening just in this part of the brain. This is 1 second here. There's about 8 seconds on this screen. This moving line is what's happening right at this moment. This is what the brain looks like when you're looking out at 700 people looking at you. What's happening is this very fast activity here. This is the brain taking all of the shapes of your heads and the colors of your clothes and the lights and trying to make a whole picture of it. We'll look at the back part of the brain now so we can have some perspective. Here's the back part of the brain. The key point is notice that these signals are quite different. This one is going up with one rhythm, this one is going up and down with another rhythm. What we'll ask Shane to do now is just close the eyes and we'll see how the brain waves change. And close the eyes. So the main thing I want you to notice is this type of activity is beginning to be seen here. This rhythmical activity going up and down, this is called alpha activity. This is a signature of the brain that's restful and alert. It's just humming to itself. The reason you see this in the back is that's the visual center. What's on the retina goes to the back of the brain. When your eyes are open, all this electrical activity is going back there. It's keeping the brain completely revved up. You close the eyes, and that part of the brain can rest. And this is resting rhythm of the cortex. Notice in the front of the brain. The front of the brain is still quite active. It looks a lot like during eyes open. Because when you close the eyes, your mind is still going. This mental chatter is continuing to just grind away. And what we see during transcendental meditation is we'll notice that this resting rhythm of the cortex is seen in the front here. This is this idea of transcending. The whole mind, the whole body goes through a state of restful alertness and a fullness. So you can open your eyes, and we'll start from an eyes open. So here's eyes open EEG. So now you can close your eyes, begin to meditate. There are many good examples, but we can start here. Notice, again, in the back, we see this resting rhythm of the cortex. Also, it's being seen here in the front. Here, here, also here as well. This is a process of the whole mind, the whole body transcending. And we're just looking at 2 places on the brain, the front and the back. But if we had all 32 here, we would see this throughout the entire brain. We'll just continue to watch as Shane is meditating. See it coming up here? Now, if Shane was doing mindfulness meditation, you wouldn't see this up here. In mindfulness meditation, it actually involves actively evaluating, watching the situation, and the frontal areas are quite active. Actually, the measurement is called lateral asymmetry. If he was practicing Tibetan Buddhism, you would not see any alpha at all. It's a very strenuous concentration technique. You actually do it, wow, look at this. You actually do it with eyes half open. And so with brain patterns now, we can address the question that someone asked earlier, how is TM different from other meditations? So this is very good. Well, thank you for meditating. You can stop now, Shane, and open the eyes when you're comfortable. The whole point that I want you to take home is back to, there he's back in the world again, is that experience changes the brain. Meditation is an experience. You take the brain to a new state, and by going back and forth, you integrate that experience, that level of fullness, with the experience of whatever you're doing, waking, sleeping, dreaming. So much so that we can ask, what will your brain be like when you graduate? What's going to be the effect of college on your brain? And we've come up with a brain integration report card. It actually measures level of integration of brain functioning in the front, overall the brain, and also how the brain responds during a task. It augments the classical academic report card with one that's looking at level of brain functioning, which is the most enduring benefit you can get from your university. Because your knowledge is going to be obsolete in about 5 years. It's just knowledge is changing so quickly. What you want to get is to structure those circuits that allow you to think clearly. So I'd like to leave you with one idea, especially those that are leaving. I want you to stay for this. This is the Wizard of Oz. Here we have the Scarecrow. Do you remember what the Scarecrow wanted? No, sorry, that's the Tin Man. You were testing me, it was very good. Scarecrow wanted a brain. And you remember what he did? He braved being burned to death, and the monkeys took him off and tried to pull all the stuffing out. He did all that because he wanted a brain, and he came and saw the Wizard of Oz. And what is the Wizard of Oz giving him? A piece of paper. So what my recommendation to you is, don't be content with just getting a piece of paper from your college education. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fred. Thank you very much, Shane. I'm going to invite David back up in a moment to take any questions you might have on meditation or on filmmaking. But I just wanted to say the following thing. David is really working very hard with his Hollywood contacts and other contacts to make sure every student in the United States, elementary, junior, high school, college and graduate student, who wants the experience of meditation and diving within to have that experience. And he's therefore established the David Lynch Foundation for Consciousness-Based Education and World Peace. And we're in the process of essentially building an endowment which will allow students who want to learn meditation to be able to do so more easily. And in fact, you should have a card that you might have come in and received. If you have any interest in learning more about meditation, how to learn it, or where to learn it, how to receive support from the David Lynch Foundation, if you could leave us the card, David will get back to you in a week or two. He'll tell you the progress he is making, which is very substantial, and also give you instructions on how to learn meditation and perhaps how to be supported to do it. I just want to say one thing. We are born in this life with broad comprehension and EEG coherence. Throughout a lifetime of education, we learn to focus that broad attention increasingly sharply, which is also a very important skill to be able to recognize and manipulate our environment. But there comes a time, at the master's level, I think, where we start to realize we're learning more and more about less and less. And at the doctoral level, we've discovered we become the world's greatest expert in nothing. The specialization itself isn't the evil. It's the lack of a few moments and a little guidance of how to withdraw that narrowly confined comprehension and narrow-minded nationalism and narrow self-centeredness, etc., expand that comprehension to live the wholeness of life, which is the true nature of our consciousness, and to become global citizens. Global citizenship, to replace narrow-minded nationalism. So David is doing this. Yeah. David has created his foundation with an ulterior motive, and that ulterior motive really is world peace. This is not a golf ball-sized idea. It is a David Lynch-sized idea, but it's a very practical approach. David's feeling is you can't have a green forest without green trees. You can't have a peaceful world without peaceful individuals. So he has created a foundation to bring the experience of profound inner peace to as many people as possible, as many who want it. And what he is very excited about achieving, and we're most excited about achieving, is not just individual peace, but the spillover effect of meditation, which is a remarkable, scientifically proven phenomenon. That is, we affect one another. We affect our loved ones, we affect our friends, our families, the entire community atmosphere, even the atmosphere of an entire city, if enough people are involved in experiencing deep peace within. You radiate that peace like a light bulb. A lit bulb radiates light. And the research shows is just as panic can spread through a room, spread through a theater, just as panic can spread through a city, calm and unity and harmony can spread through a city, can spread through a campus, can spread through the entire country or the world. We are therefore creating more and more meditators and groups of meditators, and we started in Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago. 500 students at American University and others at neighboring universities are learning transcendental meditation with the help of the David Lynch Foundation for credit in a research project sponsored by AU to really start to create in Washington an influence of sanity and peace in this stress-ridden city. So the idea, based on extensive published research, is that if you can't get George W. Bush to meditate, and I wouldn't hold my breath, you can surround him and his administration and the Congress with an atmosphere that will replace a very fear-based partisan-driven environment with a more coherent and harmonious and unified environment. As long as the capital city is gripped with fear and divisiveness, that's the sort of policy when it comes to environment, global warming, arms proliferation, decisions of war and peace throughout the world. That's the sort of policies you'll get. So we're starting in Washington, but now we're moving through California. We want to create as much of a palpable, measurable, physical, tangible influence of peace as possible. So in Washington, D.C., we're establishing the first campus of the University of World Peace. The idea is to counterbalance the global proliferation of military academies and graduate war colleges. Yeah. That are dedicated to advancing the science of war, which I would argue has already hit the point of diminishing returns. Have one university on earth dedicated solely to the prevention of war, to the promotion of peace, and creating a new profession, not soldier, but professional peacemaker, people with the ability and responsibility to prevent war. So please, get involved with this on any level you can. Take courses there. Learn to meditate. Be in touch with David Lynch through his foundation. And I want to, at this point, thank David and invite him back to take our final questions on film, meditation, consciousness, and the brain. Thank you, David.
Take a few more questions. Thank you very much.
Hi, David. My name's Tom.
Hi, Tom.
I have a question about film. The first time I saw the movie Mulholland Drive, it was in this very auditorium on that screen behind you.
Fantastic.
And it took me to a very special place. And then I went home and I actually had a dream about it. I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what that movie means to you.
Tom, I can't. I can tell you a story about it, though. Mulholland Drive, as some of you know, was started out to be a TV show, and this was going to be the TV pilot. And a TV pilot is an open-ended story. It doesn't finish itself. And when the people at ABC saw it, they hated it. And so it was dead, but I got the chance to turn it into a feature film. It took a long time for them to work out contracts and everything, and during that time I didn't really worry about it much, but then there came a day when they told me, you've got the green light, go to it. And I didn't have the ideas. So this was one time when things did happen in meditation. Almost the very day I was told I got the green light and realized I didn't have the ideas, I did my evening meditation. I'm 10 minutes in, and like a string of beautiful pearls, the whole thing came out. And I felt so happy about that, I can't tell you. It was such a blessing. And these ideas affected the beginning, middle, and end of the thing, and it was right there. Now, there's one more thing in your question. You know, this business of intuiting our way. We see so many films, but even the most surface of films hold some abstractions. Our brains and minds are working, and we're enjoying things, and there might be some look of a person to another person where we say, what, you know, but we kind of get what they're, you know, a few more hints or something like that, but the more abstract it gets, the more we gotta think, you know, we gotta think our way. And everybody has this, you know, capability, and, you know, everybody can come up with their own interpretation. And if it is abstract, and it's, you know, you could start diving within and unfolding more of that, you know, intuition. And things become more and more clear. This clarity of what's going on in the world increases. A bigger picture forms, and, you know, abstractions it's all known. It's a field of all knowingness, a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was just wondering if you could tell us how you feel about colors and how they are used to express things in film.
Again, it's the idea. It's the idea. If you go into a room, and if it's a blue, you say no, 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 no. We've got to paint this room, and it becomes a kind of a pink, a yellow pink, because that feels correct for the idea that you got. That sets the mood, and then it's not yellow pink under sunlight. It's yellow pink under a kind of a not night, but just at dusk, just almost night. And the yellow pink looks a certain way, and that's the mood you want. And then you get the sounds to go with that. And it goes like that, all based on the original idea. It's not that you think so intellectually, like you decide, I'm going to use blue because blue gives me a strange, cool feeling, and this is a very cold character, or something like that. It's not an intellectual overlay. It's living inside the ideas and being true to them. It's like the chef. The chef doesn't make the fish. The fish is there. And then the chef says, that's a beautiful, beautiful fish, and I'll really do what I can to make a beautiful meal out of that. It's like that, sort of.
Hi, David.
Hello.
Do you want to?
No, you're next.
Okay. My name's Andrew, and I was curious. I have two questions. One about the different forms of art that you do. Do you feel that your films, paintings, music, do you feel they inspire your other art forms?
Sometimes. Sometimes they're just out on their own. But sometimes when you're working on a piece of music, music for me unlocks a lot of things. Sometimes you're working on a certain music, there's certain combos of sounds, and a image comes out of that, an idea comes out of it, just pops out. And we're listening to other music, I get a lot of ideas for scenes, and maybe just a fragment of something, but it leads to other ideas that hook together with that, and a story could form. And then, but some of the same sensibility of painting, for instance, works in film also, you know, framing a thing and where the eye goes. Some of the same things work across the board. And film is a lot like music because it's a flowing of things in time like music is. And that's a beautiful thing to think about, how things flow in time.
And also, you talked a little bit about the rehearsal process to focus ideas. Do you feel that there's one part of filmmaking that is most important for you?
No, all elements are important so that the whole can work. And if you don't pay attention to each element, then the whole, you know, has less chance to work. And even less chance to get the thing as the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Sometimes that could happen. And that would be a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy, and I came specifically tonight because I was interested in the concept of peace through meditation. And, you know, there's an experience very often of not feeling very powerful in the world in terms of what's happening. And my question has to do with how many meditators make the 100th monkey so that something does happen and become realized in the world. And is the meditation needed to be focused on peace, or is
No.
it just throughout?
I'm going to try to explain it. And it's so beautiful and so hard to believe. Maharishi has a saying from the very beginning. And it rhymes, so we remember this little phrase. Water the root and enjoy the fruit. And this simple little phrase is the key to individual enlightenment and the key to world peace. Watering the root for the individual is that diving within experiencing that fundamental level of pure consciousness, growing in that, and the fruit of that action is enlightenment. For world peace, now, when you expand consciousness in the individual, negativity starts to recede. The peace-creating group is like a peace-creating factory with the most perfect machines on earth inside that factory, the human beings. There's a group of people meditating and doing advanced techniques in a group. They're quadratically more powerful at enlivening that unity than the same number scattered about. This group practice has been tested 52 times. Short-term tests, smaller groups, 52 times people had to leave their family or go away from their work and go to a place and do this, program for up to 2 months. And there's famous ones. They're all independently verified tests, independently verified as being successful in reducing crime and violence, trips to the hospital, road accidents in the area of this test. Now, the size of the group determines the area. Like Dr. John Hagelin said, we're like light bulbs. We got this bliss bubbling inside, but we broadcast it out. So through these tests, they came to a formula. The square root of 1% of the world's population. That's 8,000. Square root of 1% of 6.4 billion. 8,000, a pretty small group. 8,000 or a little bit more would be sweeter. Working always, each day, permanent. So if you had $1 billion in the bank, you'd never touch it. Just the interest coming off could sustain a group of 8,000 in a place, food, little beds, and a place to do this program. And there are a lot of souls that are just want to go for enlightenment. They want to go for it. They'd be happy to do this for themselves and for the world. It's money is standing in the way of this thing happening on a permanent basis. And it sounds hard to believe. But this field of unity, as Dr. John Hagelin says, is so powerful. It's so powerful, and he used a word last night, this way when you enliven it, it goes in all directions. It sees no obstacles. It would be easy to light up this little teeny ball on the outskirts of the Milky Way with enough unity so we live in harmony. Diversity is appreciated fully, and we're just pumping with bliss. We're filled with ideas. Who knows what we'd come up with in this atmosphere? Certainly, we wouldn't be running around killing each other or ripping our heads off.
So can I understand you to say the 8,000 have to be together in one location?
Yes.
Because there are more than 8,000 meditators throughout the world, but
Yes.
there are none that could claim 8,000 in one location.
Every light bulb helps. But I want to, help get peace-creating groups, as well as, lots of people, diving within to develop their full potential and becoming happy in their work, and not dying of fear and tension and depression and all the rest of that.
Well, I want to thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hope it's successful.
Let's hope so.
Hi, David.
How you doing?
Pretty good. I was just wondering, what single word would you use to describe the Los Angeles area?
Light.
Light?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, David. My name's Steve.
How you doing, Steve?
Doing pretty good. I had a question about your film Eraserhead, which is still the only film to this day which has actually terrified me. And I say that with full confidence because it's a very challenging film. It's a very visceral film. And I wanted to know what was your motivation behind the concept of the baby in that film. And I also wanted to know what motivated you to create Henry's reality and his world in the way that you did.
I always say that my biggest influence in life was the city of Philadelphia. The Eraserhead is a Philadelphia story. It was born out of Philadelphia. My experience is there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
2 more questions, and
Hello.
Bobby's going to pull the plug.
My name's Carrie, and I actually have 2 questions for you. The first one is, what
3
is
more
the
questions then.
Okay, they're quick. They're quick. They're light. What is the strangest thing that's ever happened to you in reality? And I'm from Los Angeles, and I was just wondering, why do you think LA's light?
Wow. I don't know.
Quickly.
Quickly?
Yeah. Because your visionary interpretations of things are not, you know, they're
Well-
not typical, so.
There have been a number of strange things, but would you send me your name and number, and I promise I'll get back to you with what I think is the strangest. I'm drawing a blank.
Okay. Great. And Los Angeles, it being light, where's that stem from?
I came to Los Angeles from Philadelphia.
Okay. That explains it. Yeah, the East Coast, West Coast thing.
I'll tell you one strange thing that happened to me. I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I was in the museum in Los Angeles in that light, and they had a show of art coming from India, sandstone carvings. And I kind of wandered off from the people I was with, and I came around a corner, and there was a corridor created of, you know, temporary walls, about 40-foot long hallway, and at the end was a head of Buddha. And I came around the corner, I looked up the pedestal, up, I saw that head, and boom, this white light and bliss shot out of that and lit me up like a firecracker. That was a nice, strange experience.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Lynch.
How
My
you
name is
doing?
Chris, and I've got a question, and if this is going to be the last question, I'll also ask for a little follow-up, which might be a good way to end this. But my initial question, and this is Mr. Hagelin and Travis can feel free to chime in on this as well, is regarding the relationship of meditation, creativity, consciousness, the brain. Where do dreams fit into this whole picture?
There's waking, sleeping, and dreaming, and then the 4th state of consciousness is that transcendental consciousness, pure consciousness. And I don't know how to answer what dreams really, you know, what dreams really are. But I think if we could ask Dr. Fred Travis, he might be able to help us out.
Because of the hour, why don't you come up afterwards and we can discuss this? It's not a one-sentence answer here.
Okay. Okay.
What happens when you dream is your brainstem cells become active. They're never active at all. And they're like 3rd graders that get out at recess time, and they fire up and completely activate your brain. So if you're sitting in your brain, you're seeing things, you're moving. At the same time, it goes down to the spinal cord and it paralyzes the body. It's atonia. So you might have woken up from dreaming and you haven't been able to move You know, you can't move a finger, and then it takes a little while, and you can move your fingers and your hands. You're actually experiencing the effect of those. What are dreams? Dreams are structured forgetting. They're also an automatic self-test of the body and brain. Are you ready to wake up? And what consciousness does is it takes this random activation in the brain, tries to make sense out of it. So that's the short answer. Thank you.
Okay, and I've got just a quick follow-up to that. I can appreciate your reluctance to discuss your current progress on your film right now, but could you maybe share with us an interesting dream that you've had lately?
I haven't been dreaming lately. I don't know what it is. Last night, I did dream, though. I dreamt that we would all work together in this world for real peace, which is not just the absence of war, but the absence of negativity, the seeds of war. And Maharishi has said that negativity is just like darkness. It's just like darkness. And you say, wait a minute, and you look at darkness, and then you see darkness isn't really anything. It's just the absence of something, the absence of light. Turn on the light, darkness goes right away. No problem. You don't have to fight the darkness. And it's good, all the good we can do for our fellow man, all the good we can do for society, all that is so beautiful. But at the same time, let's work together to turn on that light of unity, the real, most fundamental level of the world, of existence. Turn that thing up with a peace greeting group. Try that. See what happens. And see if negativity goes away like darkness goes away in the light.
I just have a quick question. Whether you see transcendental meditation and diving within as antithetical to social activism and social movements, because this campus in the 1960s came close to a university for world peace, and that, I'm not sure if that was predicated so much on meditation as opposed to social activism and jumping up and down and holding signs and speeches.
To me, you do what you can, like I just said. Do what you can for society. Let your voice ring out. But for me, I've got to concentrate on trying to, and I'd ask you to help me, do something that I really believe is getting underneath the problem. Not solving the problem at the level of the problem, even how big your heart is. Get underneath the problem, enliven that field of unity underneath all problems. Help do that as well.
Thank you.
Just read this. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free of disease. May auspiciousness be seen everywhere. May suffering belong to no one. Peace. Thank you.